let's give room for our speakers to then discuss how the real situation is, how they see it in when it comes to competition versus regulation, and Europe versus the US. So I'm now asking our four panelists to come on stage. And so welcome with me, Marco Berlinguer. He's a researcher on data and open source economy. He's also a writer and a journalist. We'll have Cristina Caffarra with us, an economist. Welcome. We have Garcia Robles, Secretary General of Big Data Value Association, BDVA. And we have Professor Dr. Carlo Alberto Carnevale Maffe, Associate Professor of the Bocconi University in Milan. And with that, a very warm welcome and thanks for your time to be today with us. A very awesome setting for this first panel. Now, let's discuss in this first panel the important voices. So from the economist side, and those have really an excellent insight into the market and antitrust on both sides of the ocean. What are your statements and ideas when it comes to big data and AI? And I would actually love to start with Cristina Caffarra, because Cristina, I know you need to leave us in about 15 minutes. So we're anyway very grateful that you made it. So let's start with you. You've lately been seeing Europe with growing attempts to protect the immunity of European data from the non-European jurisdiction. So as a field where you're very active in, and projects to enforce the European digital independence. And I know you have quite a series of publications where you state that regulation is definitely not all. So how can you explain this enormous dependency from big tech and local players, a difficulty to defend themselves, but also how much does this cause competition, antitrust, and regulation issues between the US and the EU? So please, the word to Cristina.
Thank you very much, Cristina, and thank you very much, Francesco and the team for having me here. By way of introduction, I always like to make disclosures because I come from the private sector. I'm an economist who practiced antitrust and regulation for the best part of the last 25 years. And just by way of disclosure, I worked consistently adverse to Google and Facebook for governments and private clients. I've also worked for Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and many others. So I have a view of what has happened in the digital space from inside the tent. I think that the discussion we're having today is particularly timely because, of course, as everybody knows, it comes on the day after Mario Draghi issued his report of the future of European competitiveness, which, of course, is broader in terms of scope, but also touches on the woes of Europe in the digital space. What is significant about that report is that it is unflinching, it is very tough on Europe, and essentially is a wake-up call to what some of us have also been saying for some time. The reality is that in Europe, we have funneled ourselves into the belief that we were going to get emancipation from the big tech giants through regulation. Not through investment, not through other means. The entire intellectual policy conversation in the last 5 years has been, let's tame big tech with antitrust and lately regulation. Antitrust, of course, has started early. This is my main field of focus. And it is true that Europe started much earlier than the US in trying to bring big tech to task. So it is true that Europe started cases against Google 15 years ago, and then it has pursued cases against the others. The reality, though, is that those cases have absolutely, totally failed. They have brought no changes on the ground. We can keep patting ourselves in the back and say how wonderful we are for having initiated those cases. I remember in 2018, I used to go to the US and sort of look on the US and say, well, you are doing nothing. We, at least in Europe, are trying. But 6 years after that, we've had a number of cases against Google, 3 against Apple, against Amazon, against against Facebook. And none of these cases has brought the most minute change on the ground. So antitrust enforcement, for a series of reasons, which have to do with, of course, the fact that it takes so long, the fact that the remedies are useless, the fact that regulators don't have enough attitude fundamentally to pursue these beasts, has failed. Then in Europe, we pivoted to regulation again. In the last 3 years, the entirety of the intellectual, academic, policy effort has been driven towards let's produce these laws and now enforce them. Well, the news is that this enforcement is, as predicted, slow, difficult, and not showing results, because it is a version of the same antitrust that we have had to battle for years. So my main concern is that we as Europeans have completely given up the notion of a proactive way of thinking about how do we lift ourselves to address what Draghi rightly says is the massive digital gap we have. Regulating big tech is not going to put points on GDP. And so it is about time that somebody with the stature of Draghi, people can disagree with the prescriptions. I'm not reading his report as a manual, but it's a door opener. And he's saying what we are saying. The king is naked. We are not doing enough. And we need to do something much more significant to invest in European tech, which is not what we've done for the past 15 years. So that is really the difference. Of course, in the US, they had no regulation and no antitrust for the past 15 years. So, of course, tech is flourishing. Now we have judges who might address Google. We have had a victory on Google. There are other cases against them. But, taming the giant is not the solution to growth of the minions. Because the minions are looking up at the castle and saying, we would like to grow. And the castle says, who are you? I own this castle.
Yeah, so, thank you, Cristina. I think you made lots of points and very important points also to the actual report of yesterday. You said you won't take it as a manual, but it is a great door opener. And I agree also because it gives some directions with some autocriticism that we can definitely take on. So thank you for this. And it brings me to the next question very, very easily, because I wanted to look a little bit onto the market from the outside in view, and asking Carlo, on the surface, the cloud journey for many European companies is an impressive story on the one side. On the other side, you're expected to grow far more, especially also for the own cloud service providers. The market as such is expected to grow by at least 20% per year by 2032. But much of this growth may not go to the European players. I would love to discuss with you, what is your evaluation on the situation? Is Europe not investing enough? We just talked a little bit about investment, or are there fundamental other differences that make it so difficult for the European players to be as successful as our US peers?
We're buying a lot of cloud. We're not building enough cloud.
Yeah.
And when I say not building the cloud, I'm referring to the entire stack of cloud technology. I mean, from the data center to the energy necessary to feed the data center, and of course up to infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. What Europe needs and what Europe still misses is the entire value chain of cloud provider. So just looking at the final demand of cloud services, it's good because it gives you the idea of an increasing desire of using clouds, but we need to build the entire value chain behind it. And that requires, at all levels, more investment, more standardization. Europe cannot have 27 cloud strategies, okay? And I think Mario Draghi yesterday was very clear that we need to unify the technology. But Europe cannot have 27 R&D projects on chips and technologies, of course. We don't spend less than the United States, but we fragment our expenditure in so many little rivers that we don't make critical mass. Again, another appeal to make it a convergency process. Europe needs a central, in a sense, direction. And we spent 7 billion for coordinated European research. They spent 180 billion. How can you possibly compete if you don't really target the new roads? When the Romans built Rome basically 2,000 years ago, they built infrastructures, roads, pipes, water. We need to rethink Europe in terms of those infrastructure. And Europe need, of course, interoperability. But more than interoperability, they need a logic of integrated stack of technologies. It is not just a business issue. It's a geopolitical issue, if you will. Everybody understands that today wars and geopolitical games are played around technologies. So more than productivity and efficiency, there is security, there is sovereignty, and there is national interest. And I think we need to widen the debate and make also, if you wish, also the business leaders to become active in the political arena, to tell politicians that these two flows of investment, private investment and public investment, needs to converge in giving Europe the kind of cloud infrastructure that we absolutely need for the future.
Thank you, Carlo. That's also very interesting, because I hear also a good positive part in your voice, that there is actions we can really undertake to bring us back to success in terms of also private investments. So let me see with Marco now how this could look, because he wrote recently a book with the title, The Matrix, Is There a European Way to Cloud Computing? And I have not read it, I have to admit. I read a summary. But it's looking into the US self-set goals to achieving its real own digital sovereignty. And I would be very interested, Marco, what is the what did you find out? What is your piece where you say, especially because you're also an expert in open source, where is the road that you would suggest to walk down to bring Europe back to success in this field?
I hope you can hear me. Because I have the problem.
Yeah, Marco, we can hardly hear you. Maybe you can come a little bit closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Badly, a little bit better, but still not so well.
No.
We need to build computing power and connectivity power, of course, Marco.
And bandwidth. Yes.
Exactly. You are exactly the demonstration of our point here. Please.
No, I don't think so. I don't know why you were saying.
Very difficult, Marco, to still understand you.
Sorry.
I don't want to bug you too much, but maybe you can try to be just closer to your mic. We will see maybe your nose a little bit in the front side. But
Is it better?
yes, it is a little bit better. Let's try it.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Well, what I would say that is that the European Union still not really figured out strategy. And we see that through the outcomes in cloud computing in general in the digital sphere.
Marco, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I know you would have such a great content to transmit, but people may not be able to hear you very well. I would like to spontaneously propose, maybe we ask Anna to jump in, and Mark, maybe in the background, you could be able to check your mic again. Would that be a chance? A proposal? Yeah, I'm sorry for this. Let's try, because we don't want to miss the great things you want to transmit. So okay, let's give Marco the chance to make a short tech check in the background, and I would move over to Anna. Ana Garcia Robles, you're the Secretary General of BDVA. I know you will give us a short insight also exactly where you're, what kind of entity you're leading. So I will not do that. And let's see if Marco can go on mute. Thank you. Yes. But I will throw straight away the answer to the, or we'll bring it to the table. So BDVA has been focusing from long on the value created from big data and now AI, both topics that are very much driving not only everything that where we're currently investing and building for the cloud business, but also as such big investments from the European side. So do you think that Europe is using the right weapons to really regain competitiveness in AI? Do you think this is all going the right way? And what is your part you're doing in this? Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina, and I'm really excited to be here with you. And as Cristina mentioned in his intervention, and also Carlo, you know, it's a very good moment to talk about it. And I think we all will refer to Marco Draghi's report, no, a bit, because that has put also on the spot many thoughts that a lot of thinking that and discussions that many of us have had for years. So just to position a bit my input. So in my position with BDVA, so we have been working for almost a decade already now with companies that work on data and artificial intelligence, from research and innovation to competitiveness. Exactly the topic that is now in the spot. And of course, the report shows that still there is a lot of work to do. Of course, with all the efforts that we didn't collectively make in the last few years, it could be worse, but definitely there is a change to make. To your question, looking at in particular what is happening now with artificial intelligence and with data. So let's look at first the positive part. We have the ingredients. Well, we have some. But we have certain things that if we don't change, those positive things won't really, we won't be able to leverage. So I start with just repeating with Carlo said, we are investing in research and innovation. So there are investments, clearly. But I fully agree, they are fragmented, and more than fragmented, they are also very slow to put into motion. And I will elaborate into that. But there is investment. So it's not that there is no research and innovation public investment. Maybe the private investment also I will touch in a moment, but with the positive points. Second, and I have to recognize there are a lot of efforts in creating a common infrastructures from HPC to computing, data spaces, AI infrastructures. However, and with that, I also I think my input can resonate with Carlo. Those things don't connect well with each other from scratch. It's not designed to connect. So we don't look to value chains, to different. So sometimes we lack this coherence. And we don't build that coherence at enough speed even in the private-public collaboration. Then another positive point, so I'm listing the positive with a bit of still the challenge, and quickly we'll go to the really things that I think need to change. The strong focus on education skills, I think this is positive, it needs to continue, and that's very positive. And finally, another very important part that I see, and we all see emerging in Europe, as we are building this industrial digital ecosystem, so they are popping up, so to speak, mainly formed by the more traditional industries. But I think if these ecosystems embrace AI and they nurture new startups and we create here innovation ecosystems, really the ones that go to commercial, then that's also a great opportunity. But now, I mean, these ingredients are going nowhere if we don't do other things. First, the fragmentation has been mentioned. I'm not going to enter there, but then looking at the current research and innovation programs, so the feedback from our companies is technology moves super fast. But the programs, I mean, from the time you apply for the funding to the moment that you're ready to go to the market, is too late. There are already a lot of competitors in the market, and you are not competitive at all any longer, just because the life cycle is too long, and that's very problematic. Another important point, I think we focus too much on technology and very little in services. And that's connected also with the topic of the coherence between the programs. You know, the companies cannot go, oh, to do this, I need to go to HPC. Now I have to deploy here. Now I need to go here. And here I have one type of tools. Here I have another type of tools. And here I need to navigate this European landscape of fantastic things. But okay, it's easier for me to go to, to one of the hyperscalers that I have all the services from the beginning to the end. And we really need to be very strong in being services oriented, also from the research to the market, and very fast. We cannot leave that to the post-research part. And maybe a few more comments, I think, on things that we can also improve. I think in Europe, we move a lot from hype to hype, and we forget past investments. And I think of course, we need to look at the new things coming up, but we also need to make sure that if we invest in something, we give sustainability to the public-private collaboration. Otherwise, we are just repeating, the funding is jumping from one place to another with different names, and industry needs to reconstruct infrastructures and structures, and that takes a lot of time, energy, and that's something that we really need to change. And yeah, I think with this, I think also the clear change of mindset. And from our perspective, I'm really happy to look with many of you on how we can really go, as Draghi's report say, from innovation to the market, to real market. I think the gap there is clearly, and has been for many years, very problematic. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And I'm also grateful that you touched the point of sustainability. Of the investments that we've been doing. Both of us know each other also for many projects where funding played a big role, and still ongoing projects that have really a great opportunity for sustainability, but we have to work on it. It's not a self-runner. And maybe I can use that as a keyword to try it again with Marco, sustainability in real market. Marco, were you able to manage a little bit your microphone? Because then I would come back to the question of your book. Is there a European way to cloud computing? Because it would be so nice to hear your input in this.
I'm afraid I couldn't fix the problem. Do you hear me now? No.
We do hear you, but very much metallic, I would say.
I'm very sorry, but I don't want to oblige you to hear.
What we can try, Marco, is I think if you speak very close to your mic and very slowly, maybe we can give it 2 minutes. If you agree, we just try it out. If I interrupt you, don't be angry with me. Then it's just because it's difficult with the voice quality. Let's give it a try.
Well, I've been explaining the policy of the European Union cloud computing, and what I have been highlighting is that there was a strategy, an attempt to design a strategy in 2020 during the German presidency of the European Union that had some elements that were interesting and innovative in terms of figuring out an innovative strategy to achieve a greater autonomy in the digital systems. This strategy, however, was just a draft, uncompleted, and more it was not implemented. So we see that in the results. Now we have seen worsening the situation in terms of dependence of the European countries in cloud computing. However, what I call a matrix is, in my opinion, the most interesting aspect of that drafted strategy, which was characterized by the attempt to utilize 4 principles of technological design and technological development. And these principles are the free and open source software, the standardization, modularity, and interoperability. I call them matrix because they can be combined in different ways, and so they don't provide a mechanic recipe for your objectives, but then still they are extremely important in the reality of the governance of digital ecosystems, and they can, in political terms, be used to dismantle existing monopolies and to foster the new systems.
So Marco, if you allow me, I think we all understood you have a lot to say, but it's still very difficult to understand you. So what I would propose is, in the aftermath of this event, we will collect some of your quotes, and also give the chance to write a little bit, abstract, so we can share it with everybody who is attending today. I would love, because I have one last question to all of you, actually, and we have 1-2 more minutes to go. So allow me to ask you in a very sharp and short statement, if you can, how much does the market ask or expect for a real European alternative versus the American hegemony? So do you really think there's a drive coming from the market to just really looking for alternatives? And I would like to give the question to Carlo first, please.
The small and medium enterprises are not really interested in our, say, institutional discussions, so there will be less pressure on SMEs. But large corporations, of course, they are well aware of the risks of this oligopoly and the risk of blocking innovation and in creating this lock-in situation that has generated inefficiency. So it depends on which side of the market you're looking on, and of course regulation can change it. Regulation can force enterprises to move towards European suppliers. That's exactly what's happening. Come on, the AI Act and most of the regulation of Europe is basically protectionism by regulation. So even if there is no clear will, because of course the hyperscalers are very efficient, they have been designed like that.
Yes.
But efficiency is not the only part of the story. There is safety, there is security, there is independence, there is sovereignty. There is more to cloud than just computing.
Thank you, Carlo. And I guess this could be the chance to make even a separate roundtable only on this topic.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you. Anna, your statement on that.
So I agree with certain things with Carlo, and definitely depends on the type of company, and also I will separate that the smaller ones, they really want to, they need to go fast, they need to simplicity, but maybe in that, and then in the large ones, I still see that they continue working with the existing alternatives, but it's true exactly what Marco described, what Carlo has described. But something maybe to add is not just to go against of we need regulation. I think I want to emphasize the topic of the services that I described before. So whatever, the alternative that comes from Europe needs to come with a lot of simplicity. Clearly, it needs to come with the possibility that as soon as a new innovation, as soon as a new AI service comes into place, strong partnerships can be done to integrate that technology quickly in the different, in the different existing technologies. So it's simplicity and also the capacity to really bring those innovations in the existing, let's say, technologies. So I don't think only with regulation will help, but in particular for the small players, we need to make their life very, very simple. And
thank you, Anna.
Thank
you. Very great statements, and thanks for all of you that I think we got not only a good description of the situation, but also in general really a good vision of what needs to be done to make Europe successful, and not just let's say fall into liturgy about certain things that we might not like to see. So I want to give a great thank you to Marco Berlinguer, Cristina Caffarra, who had to leave us already, Anna Garcia Robles, and Carlo Alberto Carnevale Maffe for your time and your great input. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cristina.
You're invited to stay in the call as well.